California has the worst homeless rates in the U.S. It's spending billions of dollars to provide shelter, but homelessness is getting even worse. Why can't California fix it? Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. When California Governor Gavin Newsom came into office in 2019, he vowed to tackle homelessness. Because if anyone understands the plight of the poor, it's Gavin French Laundry Newsom. According to his 2017 campaign, homelessness drove the why for Newsom when he ran for mayor in San Francisco. And he's going to take the issue on with equal intensity as governor. Newsom has launched a $15.3 billion multi-year state effort to turn the tide on homelessness, the most expansive in all of California's history. But homelessness has been a bane to Newsom's governorship, even more so than interrupting robots.
Well, good morning, Governor. Is that Optimus Prime?
It is a privilege to stand by your side.
It is good to have you standing by my side, and
I will never not play that clip, even when it's only tangentially related to the topic. Back to homelessness. More people than ever are homeless in California. The state's homeless population grew by 22,000 during the pandemic. The state estimates that there are over 173,000 people without stable housing. Nearly 70% of those people sleep outdoors or in vehicles, while the rest stay in shelters and transitional housing. Local organizations reported this year the number of people staying in emergency and longer stay shelters ballooned by 33% since 2019. This makes California by far the capital of homelessness in the U.S., with 1 in 4 homeless Americans living there, while Portland, Oregon remains the capital of people who just look homeless. Newsom's been trying to fix homelessness by pumping more money into housing through projects like Project Room Key and Project Home Key. We made a whole episode explaining these programs in depth. If you want to learn more about them, click the link below. 2 years since the programs were launched, results have been abysmal. Only a fifth of people in Project Room Key found permanent housing, and thousands have returned to the streets, which sounds sad unless you work for San Francisco's Poop Patrol. Then that just sounds like job security. Another housing program, the Homelessness Housing Assistance and Prevention Grants, also had dismal results. These grants are supposed to empower local officials' plans to address homelessness in their area. Basically, the state is paying for local city or county homelessness programs. But Newsom says these local officials aren't doing enough. Altogether, the plans result in just a 2% decrease of homelessness over 4 years statewide. That's around 2,000 people. This is while homelessness is rising by an average of 7% a year. The only thing rising more alarmingly in California are people's cheekbones. Why are California's efforts to combat homelessness so inefficient? I'll explain after the break. Welcome back. California pumps a lot of money into fighting homelessness, but it's money that's not well spent. Back in 2016, Los Angeles overwhelmingly passed Proposition HHH, a ballot measure that raised $1.2 billion through a higher property tax to create new apartments for the homeless. 6 years later, homelessness increased from 28,000 to 42,000. Proposition HHH initially aimed to build 10,000 apartments for the homeless, but only 3,400 were completed. Thousands more are still under construction and in design. Who could have guessed that you couldn't rely on Triple H? Except, of course, pro wrestling fans who know that you can never turn your back on the game because he's a cerebral assassin. The most recent audit found that the average cost per apartment unit was $600,000. That's just the average, which means that there are even more expensive units. The most outlandish example being a unit that costs over $800,000 for a single person. Well, at least California officials aren't spending millions on just toilets. Oh wait, they're also literally flushing money down the drain. Why are these apartments so expensive? Officials are blaming rising construction costs due to the pandemic, which is partly true. But there's also a whole lot of red tape. It makes things more expensive and complicated thanks to project labor agreements, environmental friendly building codes, and other bureaucratic factors. According to a former official at the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, money comes with such confined requirements that it's almost impossible to spend. Money that seems exciting but is basically useless? Oh, so like crypto. Even finding available land to build on is notoriously difficult thanks to overbearing zoning rules. It can take years to get housing permits at the local level. Not many places like having poor people around. Many neighborhoods try to block unpopular projects such as multifamily or affordable housing. Some find unique excuses to avoid affordable housing development. The town of Woodside did so in a rather unique way, by declaring itself a mountain lion sanctuary. What do mountain lions have to do with housing the homeless? No, it's not that people are worried about the homeless getting eaten. Town officials found a clause in the law that prohibits development in areas identified as habitats for protected species. Mountain lions are a protected species because they are a candidate for the California Endangered Species Act. According to the mayor, every house that's built is one more acre taken away from mountain lions' habitat. Where are they going to go? Pretty soon we'll have nothing but asphalt and no animals or birds. So they're saying they can't help the homeless because if they do, mountain lions will be homeless. I assume they aren't as polite when panhandling. This is despite the fact that Woodside is a wealthy town full of multi-million-dollar mansions. Not even animal conservation advocates buy Woodside's excuse. To make matters even more frustrating for Governor Newsom, local officials are intentionally setting the bar low for themselves. Although given this is California, maybe having low expectations should be the norm. I'll explain after the break. Welcome back. Californian officials are being called upon to combat homelessness, but it doesn't seem like they're trying that hard. After all, why be ambitious when you can simply get money if you're allowed to set the standard low? The problem is California tied $180 million in bonus money to local governments meeting their own targets. If they fail, they don't get the extra money. Which sounds fine, accountability, right? But local governments were asked to base their goals for lowering homelessness on the lower pre-pandemic counts of homeless people, which means they're now largely screwed since homelessness grew so much during the pandemic, unless they can fudge their goals. For example, Sacramento promised to not allow homelessness to grow by more than 71%. When Newsom read that, he thought it was a typo, but it wasn't. Why 71%? Because that's how much homelessness had already grown in Sacramento by the time they were going to be evaluated for the bonus money. After backlash, Sacramento has since changed its goal by promising to reduce homelessness by 15% by 2024. The problem is that most localities simply figured they couldn't promise to make homelessness that much better when it had already grown so much worse. And being too ambitious risked failure to meet their targets and losing any shot at the bonus money. Newsom's irritated that cities and counties aren't trying hard enough, which was why he rejected every local homeless plan in early November and paused $1 billion of spending. Wow. You know it's serious when even Gavin Newsom decides to cancel expensive plans. Local officials criticized Newsom's criticisms, saying that pausing funds won't help fix the issue. But after a meeting with 100 local officials, Newsom reversed course. Newsom told everyone to come up with better plans, but without any specific policy changes. It was a quick reversal some local leaders and advocates saw as a political stunt. The episode gave everyone a chance to air their grievances, but landed on no specific targets, while briefly risking the continuity of services for people experiencing homelessness. Gavin Newsom doing a pointless, awkward political stunt? No. As far as we can tell, local leaders still aren't incentivized to do better to confront homelessness. After the November meeting, Newsom's deputy chief of staff said as soon as applicants sign a pledge to submit more ambitious, unsheltered targets and try harder in their plans for the next $1 billion grant, the state will start cutting checks. Local leaders don't like that. You know what else they don't like? Accountability. There's very little tracking of how money is being spent or if programs are even working. Local entities serving people on the ground hadn't always been required to report outcomes to the state. and no state body provided effective oversight of the myriad agencies that address homelessness. In Oakland, for example, 2 back-to-back audits found that Oakland failed to track basic outcome data. Feels like the homeless are more responsible than the people put in charge of tackling homelessness. Other places don't even get audited in the first place. According to State Senator Dave Cortez, he asked San Jose to see if the city had audited its homeless spending. No, he was told. Local funding, not state funding, was used at the Columbus Park site, so an audit was unnecessary. You know how I know when an audit is necessary? When someone starts insisting an audit isn't necessary. That's like when someone gets pulled over and tells the officer there's no reason to inspect what that banging noise is coming from the trunk. Even if all California got its act together and followed Newsom's plan to build houses for the homeless, study after study shows that housing first policies don't resolve homelessness. Things like we're going to build X number of shelters and we're spending X amount of money this one time to combat homelessness are more about politics than long-lasting solutions. Newsom's plans don't take into account other factors such as how many homeless stay housed and how many simply go back to the streets. They also make it difficult for cities and counties to plan permanent programs when funding could disappear. Newsom recognizes that he and the Democratic leadership is going through a crisis of confidence because of the current situation. Maybe he just needs to clear his head by eating out with some friends. So what do you think about California's homeless crisis? Leave your comments below. If you like this show, remember that we rely mainly on direct support from viewers like you. All it takes is as little as $1 per episode over on our crowdfunding website, Patreon. Visit patreon.com/America Uncovered for more. Click the link below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.